Have you ever felt that near electric tingle in the pit of your stomach? The unmistakable buzz that springs up the second someone you're attracted to walks into the room. It's not excitement exactly. It's as though your body is a radar, sensing, without thinking, the unspoken presence of someone who counts. Chances are you have felt this. And just as great a likelihood you've wondered, hoped even, if the other person felt it too. Today, I invite you to travel inward with me, past the veil of everyday talk, into the silent realm of the unconscious. Mind, a place richly mapped by the visionary psychologist Carl Jung. Because it's there, under the mask of everyday interaction, that the reality of someone's feelings quietly resides. Jung theorized that the deepest, most genuine elements of human connection aren't expressed in words. In fact, they short-circuit reason altogether. Rather, they are expressed through body language, fleeting glances, slight gestures and patterns that recur like murmurs of the soul. We lose them when we hurry. We lose them when we see only with the eyes and not with instinct. But if you slow down, if you give yourself permission to observe and feel, you might start to realize that the person you're thinking about might already be showing you how they feel without ever uttering a word. Let's start with one of the most obvious, but also most neglected signs: how this person is looking at you. Carl Jung famously considered the eyes windows to the unconscious, a gateway into the soul that tells us more than the tongue ever would. So look closely. When this individual is speaking to you, do they keep eye contact a fraction of a second longer than they need to? Do they appear to hover in your eyes, as if they are sucked into the weight of your being? There is a distinction between a courteous look and the sort of gaze that attempts to memorize your face, that silently scans your eyes to see who you are. That's not merely attraction, it's intrigue. And there is something more. Observe their pupils closely. Science demonstrates that pupil dilation happens as an involuntary biological reaction to heightened emotional stimulation and strong attraction. It cannot be imitated, and it cannot be suppressed. If their eyes dilate slightly when they're around you, when you're speaking, when you laugh, be aware that their subconscious is reacting to you in a manner that their brain might not even fully comprehend. But attraction doesn't reside in the eyes alone. It resides in the spaces between you, in the magnetic tug of nearness. This is where the second sign, potent but frequently quiet, is to be found. Jung thought our unconscious tends to draw us toward what attracts us, be it someone, an idea, or an emotion. So think back for a moment. Does this individual tend to find themselves around you even when there's no reason for it? Do they happen to accidentally turn up wherever you are, a hallway, a meeting place, or a secluded area at a party? Do they lean in closer when speaking or brush against your arm when walking beside you? These aren't random accidents. They are unconscious bids for closeness, small acts of intimacy disguised as casual contact. When someone is emotionally drawn to you, they will, often without realizing it, reduce the space between you. Because to the unconscious, closeness is safety. Closeness is connection. They're not grand romantic declarations, but they're real. They're the language of the body trying to say, I want to be near you. They're echoes of a deeper yearning, one that words might be too timid to express. Third sign lies in how they respond to your emotions. If someone truly feels something deep for you, they'll immediately notice any small shift in your mood. Carl Jung explained that on an unconscious level, people form strong empathy towards people they care about. This person likely senses quickly whether you're sad, happy, or uncomfortable, and has a real interest in learning how you feel and helping you think for a moment. When you've had a bad day, does this person attempt to make you feel better or support you in a genuine manner? If so, you're seeing a strong indicator that their interest extends well beyond the surface into very deep emotional levels. The fifth sign is about synchronicity. Carl Jung talked about a phenomenon known as synchronicity, where two unrelated events are meaningfully linked, creating a sense of destiny or predestined connection. Take a moment to consider your experiences. With this person, have you observed recurring coincidences in tastes, interests, or ideas? As if you were mirrors of one another, if that person tends to say things like, "What a coincidence," or appears taken aback at how much you have in common, what you're actually feeling is a strong unconscious connection. It's the unconscious weaving invisible threads to connect two souls that sense a deep affinity. The fifth sign is concerned with body language. Jung felt that our body speaks what the unconscious wants to say, even when we make a conscious effort to hide, because the next section can radically change the way you comprehend relationships and how you decode the messages that you get from that someone special. This is where a more intriguing aspect of the collective unconscious, so richly developed by Jung, starts to reveal itself. There is a specific connection that is experienced when someone hears you with genuine presence, with a silence charged with meaning, not necessarily waiting for their turn to speak, but appearing to take in every word that you say. That kind of active listening that takes no effort to see is an indicator of inner openness, a real interest that doesn't stem from duty but from an urge to understand you at your essence. Carl Jung stated that when a persona is a strong archetypal image in our life, like the anima or the animus, the soul starts reacting with some sort of inner knowing that goes beyond reason. That individual might sense eerily familiar, as though you know them already, although you're only just discovering them, if when you are around them, time feels to move differently, or their energy remains with you even when they've gone. Don't dismiss it. It's not romantic magic. It's the unconscious humming deeply. Another strong indication shows at times of vulnerability. Pay attention if this person is at ease to confide their fears, wounds, or doubts to you. Jung learned that the soul only opens to what it feels as safe as an extension of itself. If a person begins to show you their authentic self without facade, even confessing things they've never told anyone else, you're witnessing a very clear manifestation of deep trust and genuine emotional interest. And let's not forget something vital: how that person reacts when you share your achievements, your ideas, or your dreams. Jung spoke of individuation as a process of becoming whole. If that person supports you, encourages your growth, and celebrates your progress as if it were their own, it's not just sympathy. It's a form of emotional connection that arises from the subconscious, where your very existence is sacred to the other. But there is also a sign that, though it might look contradictory, is one of the most revelatory discomfort. There is a facet that Jung has with the spiritual. When one soul is touched by another, the body responds as well. Subtle shifts in rate of heartbeat, a feeling of being more alive when they are close, or a weird sense of peace. From hearing them speak, these are psychosomatic expressions that betray a profound emotional connection. It's not fantasy or autosuggestion. It's a symphony between your unconscious and theirs, resonating notes that can't always be defined by words. Genuine interest isn't always revealed through explicit statements or traditional romantic actions. Sometimes it's concealed in what looks like nothing: a slow hesitation before goodbye, a casual question about your tastes or preferences, or a smile that breaks out for no discernible reason when they see you. Each of these actions can be choreographed by the depths of the unconscious, where the most genuine and enduring bonds are created. And there are still further indications that Carl Jung assisted in deciphering. Signals most individuals miss because they reside just at the boundary of the unseen. Let's venture further into that hidden world, because what's on the horizon can open your eyes to something you never could have imagined. There are times when the mind exhausts of words, but the body continues to speak. Jung felt that the unconscious speaks in terms of symbolism, and that encompasses subtle physical responses. Pay close attention. Does this individual touch their neck tuck in their clothes, run a hand through their hair, or play with an object when they are near you. These actions, far from instinctual, are reflections of internal conflict between what they feel and what they are not able to communicate. They are movements born out of the desire to master an emotion that is no longer able to be contained, even words, when it bursts out clumsily. Maybe a tip: pay attention. If that individual occasionally speaks out of place, contradicts itself, or laughs at odd times, it's not normal nervousness, it's an unconscious defense mechanism attempting to shield what it feels without necessarily revealing it. Jung taught us that in the struggle between the conscious and unconscious, the most sincere emotions are created if you observe that wrestle with the way they talk. To you, it's probably that what they're feeling is greater than they can say. There's also something that too often slips past unnoticed: the need to remember. If that person recalls tiny details, you've long forgotten things you casually mentioned. In passing your favorite food somewhere, you only mention once. Don't underestimate. Reminding is a work of the soul. When we care, when someone is important to us, our unconscious focus becomes sharper and we begin recording what issues from the other. For precious, that selective memory hears more than speech ever could. And for good measure, there's a sign you can't see, but feel: anticipation. Do you notice that person anticipates what you need? Do they wrap you in a coat before you start to feel cold? Ask if you have eaten before you declare you're hungry? Text you just as you were thinking of them? It's not telepathy, it's unconscious connection. Jung wrote about subtle energy fields, about how our feelings can reach beyond our physical form and touch others without making direct contact. If someone can predict how you feel, it's because they're picking up on you beyond what they can see. Sometimes, what the unconscious mind can't conceal shows up in the music that person listens to, the books that person begins reading, the quotes that person shares without knowing why they start to line with your passions, your thoughts, your symbols. That's not chance. Jung referred to this as psychic transference, a phenomenon whereby two inner realms start to affect each other. If you realize that your likes begin to surface in that individual without you ever speaking of them, it means there is a fusion occurring at a very inner level. And take close note of the way that person behaves when someone else takes notice of you. They might not say something verbally, but their body responds. They stiffen, their tone of voice shifts, they look away or fall silent. That silence is eloquent, Jung would comment. That's when the shadow comes out, the part of ourself we can't control, but that shows what we really feel. If you see held back jealousy, awkward unease, or a quiet desire to stake their claim without being aggressive, what you are seeing is the unconscious expressing a need for soul connection. Another subtle but mighty sign shows up when that person can also share silence with you without getting uneasy. It's not about filling the room with words, it's about just being. Jung felt that the soul rests in the company of one with whom it does not need to justify itself. If the two of you can get along with silence without tension, if tranquility is around you, even when there are no words spoken, then that presence is talking louder than any conversation ever could. And if in the midst of all this, they've laid some of their wounds, their flaws, or their fractured pieces on you, listen carefully. That's not something to be given to everyone. Jung described that we only share our shadow with those we unconsciously see as symbols of change. If someone trusts you in this manner, it's because they unconsciously believe that you are a safe space for their most vulnerable truth. Don't make light of it. There is much more. Much more. The unconscious is a notion full of symbols, hidden gestures, and invisible pulses. What comes next will take you even deeper, because when someone desires you with their soul, their most authentic language is not spoken with the mouth. It is revealed in every act they cannot control. There's a kind of connection that sometimes reveals itself in the most unexpected moments. When you're absent, Jung explained that the unconscious learns to value more clearly what is no longer in sight. When someone feels you more than they can describe their changes in behavior, they might get more agitated, more brooding, more withdrawn from others. And once you're back, they appear to get their spark, their lightness again, as if being with you restores a missing component of themselves. That emotional transition isn't necessarily nostalgia. It's the unconscious acknowledgement of an invisible but profound connection. Sometimes that one person unwittingly becomes your emotional echo. They don't just recall what you explained, they begin to use your words, your phrases, even your tone. This subtle mirroring is one of the most potent indications of unconscious resonance. Jung termed it as a symbolic identification process where the other starts to incorporate fragments of you into their own story without being aware of it. It's a manner of keeping you near, of feeling connected even when you're not present physically. And there's a yet deeper expression, the creative urge, when someone is emotionally unmoved by your energy. They would not start creating. They would not write, paint, compose music, or be more expressive. Without a reason, Jung perceived creativity as a valve of the unconscious, a means of diverting what cannot be reasoned out. If you pay attention to the fact that this individual has begun expressing themselves more creatively since you entered their life, it's because you're stimulating inner areas that had been dormant for a while. There are also times of calm, not of indifference, but of quiet observation. Certain individuals, when they sense something profound, withdraw, a bit not out of reluctance to connect, but because they are attempting to grasp what is occurring in themselves. Jung said that when the unconscious meets up with an individual who embodies something archetypal or transformative, it does not always react with instant excitement, but with a sort of inner stillness. So if this individual, when a person appears to have a storm brewing within them right before they lay eyes on you, it's not always confusion, it's respect. It's because, in their eyes, you're not merely another human being. You're something extraordinary, something deep. You stir up feelings they don't know how to process yet. And when you do finally meet, don't only pay attention to what they tell you, watch how they say goodbye. There is a particular body language that words can never counterfeit. A hesitation in their stride, a lingering glance that lingers between being there and being gone, or a little phrase thrown in at the last minute just to stall the goodbye. These are not happenstance. That is the soul, not wanting to let go of what makes it secure. Jung once said that the soul yearns for stability where it is most comfortable, and when the body holds on, it's because the unconscious has taken refuge in your presence. Yet the mystery is deepened. For even beyond the eyes, beyond the skin, there is something more unusual, those instants that are too synchronous to be rationalized. You remember them, and a message materializes. You dream of them, and the following day, they're inexplicably close. Or a phrase they used to say comes back as an unexpected whisper from a stranger's lips. These are not coincidences. Jung referred to them as synchronicities, cosmic echoes, not coincidence. Indicators that something more, something intangible, is intertwining your lives at the right moment. A silent beat revealing a truth. The two of you are more entwined than reason can comprehend. And this is only the beginning. Because when the unconscious finally does speak, it is not like to speak with clarity. It whispers in symbols, in dreams, in small behaviors we hardly even see. But if you learn to read the surface, if you listen not just with your ears, but with your heart, you start to understand. This isn't infatuation. It's something old, something holy, something the soul knows before the mind is even aware. Sometimes, what reveals the most isn't what's spoken, but what's held back. It's the message they type, then delete, the way their eyes lower when yours meet, the silence that stretches not out of boredom, but depth, the confession that almost escapes, only to be swallowed again. Jung once said the unconscious expresses itself through symbols, entangled, yes, but sincere. And if you've seen the signs, if your intuition has been whispering to you that this connection runs deeper than what's visible, you're not imagining things. You're receiving a message without words, straight from the soul. Perhaps they haven't said so yet. Perhaps they are too afraid. Or perhaps the burden of what they're feeling hasn't even settled in them yet. But something is different when they are near you. The atmosphere thickens. Time appears to warp. Their aura warps toward you like a magnet, and you don't even need them to explain it to you. You've already experienced it. You already sense it. And if a particular individual continued popping up in your mind while hearing this again and again, it's not coincidence. That's alignment. That's resonance. That's the unseen whispering. There's more at play than you've been willing to confess. The invisible is usually more actual than whatever is right in front of us.